It's 5 o'clock and time for Wiregrass Strong. The new coronavirus epidemic is a big problem that's expected to become bigger in the weeks and months to come. For those who are infected as well as those trying to avoid infection, these are trying times. But amid all the doom and gloom, there are some positive stories, positive messages, and reasons to remain hopeful. So every afternoon at this time, your Wiregrass Radio family of stations will come together while staying apart to help you stay informed. We're going to be seeking your input. If you're a business impacted by the virus, call and let the Wiregrass know what you are doing to continue safely providing your services or goods. And if you're a parent working hard to take care of your family, we'd love to hear how you are coping. Remember, only the facts, no hearsay or rumors, and we're trying to keep things positive. Our number is 334-699-1053, or you can join us on YouTube Live, and you can chat throughout the program. And welcome to a Monday. It is April the 13th, and on top of COVID-19, we've been dealing with some weather. Here on Wiregrass Strong, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about coronavirus, and we'll talk with a special guest today. I'd like to tell you this half hour is brought to you as a public service of Knights Wrecker Service. Big or small, they do it all. 899-3257, Ashford, Dothan, and Headland. Let them be your knight in shining armor. Give them a call. 899-3257. Good folks to do business with. Streaming live on Facebook, and that's at B1053 on Facebook. And on YouTube, just go to our Wiregrass Radio channel and click on the coronavirus daily update. We call it Wiregrass Strong, and we're staying strong, Wiregrass, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Let's introduce who we have on the panel today. To my right, which will be right over here, that is Dave Wash Your Dang Hands Gilligan from the morning show Pollard and Dave here on B1053, and directly below him is, of course, Amy Pollard of Pollard and Dave in the morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How y'all doing?
Hey, everybody.
Good to see you. Good to see everybody today.
All right. And directly below me in the lower left, that is Chief of Police for the fine burg of Dothan, Alabama. That is Steve Parrish. Hello, Steve.
Hey, man, it's great to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
It's good to have you here. Your men and women in blue were out in force last night, taking care of the roadways, and I encountered quite a few of them up and down, in and out, outside the circle, inside the circle. Folks were busy last night.
They were, and I think they ran a warrant check on you. Did they stop you by that? I'm just kidding.
I just flashed my big B1053 banner at them on the truck and kept right on booking. You know, they figured this fella's got places to go, and I did.
Yeah, we've been we've had a lot of patrols out, extra patrols out, and doing some things to try to keep the community safe during this time. And that's why I'm glad to be on here today. You know, I would like to field any questions that you guys may have received from your audience in the past about some of the things that maybe they could or couldn't do, could go or not go, and we just want the public to know that we're really here to support not only them but the local businesses, so we understand the situation that we're in.
We do have Faye Bryant and Phyllis Deese Farmer who have checked in on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can go to Facebook, B1053, and type it right in there. We'll get it on the chat window, as well as YouTube Live. It's Wiregrass Radio. Type your questions in there. 699-1053, area code 334-699-1053 if you have a phone call, and we'll get that question answered for you. Dave?
Good afternoon, everybody. Steve, I have a 17-year-old, so my question is going to be about teenagers losing their mind, no school, all the chores got done a week and a half ago. They've played every video game in their library, and they are dying to get out of the house, and they want to go shoot hoops, and they want to go to their friends. I want the chief of police to tell them what I think he needs to tell them.
Sure, sure. Well, the whole thing is the social distancing rule. You know, obviously, you can't put 5 or 6 guys out on a basketball court and maintain that safe distance. Now, recreation is, however, permitted through the governor's order, and it's encouraged, getting out riding a bicycle, getting out jogging and things like that. But you know, your workout clubs and the things a lot of us want to do together, that's kind of out. You know, in the case of my kids, you know, you put a shovel in their hand or a weed eater or a lawnmower, and that'll make them that much more content to go back in and increase that replay factor on that video game.
That's right.
Hey, listen, I want to go over some of the most recent numbers, guys, for the state of Alabama. Geneva County is, now this is all according to the Alabama Department of Public Health. Geneva County is now showing that one confirmed case, 66 total tested. Geneva County or Henry County now is 13. We have 47 confirmed cases in Houston County with 380 tests completed. Chief, we feel like still, I think cumulatively, most of us feel like the reason a lot of our numbers still may be suppressed or lower than what most people had anticipated is because of the lack of testing that we do have in our immediate area. What are you finding is your biggest challenge right now dealing with the state ordered shelter in place orders that we got from the governor? What is the biggest challenge that your staff and your guys are coming to you with right now during this time?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, it's been kind of a fluid process. When the governor's orders first came out, the first thing we had to do was determine what it actually pertained to and communicate that. And we did that. And you know, we had several businesses that, frankly, they didn't know if they could be open, so they did open. And we had a clearinghouse set up to where people could actually call and complain and say, "Hey, this place is open. I don't think they're supposed to be." And we set up a couple of investigators where we would reach out to them and tell them, "Hey, you're sorry, you're not within the parameters," you know, and remind them. I think you may have heard of some of those, you know, on the news, but you know, so working with the local businesses to make sure they understand what they can and can't do was a primary thing. And then, of course, when the second order came out, there came this whole, okay, these stores are allowable, but only so many people in the store, like half the fire code or whatever. That got the fire department involved in it,
right,
as well. And we've got several complaints on that. But all in all, we probably had 85 complaints right out the gate. And we talk to people. Most of them understand, and we understand too. We understand that small business and local business is the lifeblood of our community. And
so what guidelines are you? I know we've got the state, what was handed down from Governor Ivey as far as the list, but then there is some areas in there that may need you guys to actually say, "Hey, no, you're essential," or "You're not essential." What are you personally telling your guys? Hey, this is what's going to dictate if a business is essential or not.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. At the end of the day, the public health department made the declaration, and they're the ones that said, okay, this is what the law is going to be. The governor declares the law, and we actually reached out to the attorney general's office on a few cases where we wasn't really 100% sure. We wanted to make sure that we were being consistent throughout the entire state. We had one local sporting goods store that was wanting to stay open here in town, so we contacted the attorney general's office, the Department of Public Health, and said, what is everybody else doing? Contacted a
Right.
few of my colleagues and chiefs and other agencies to make sure that we were consistent as well. So back to your original question, really any interpretation of that, we would maintain a good open line of communications with our local public health department representative and say, okay, does this fall in lines with what you guys are saying? And I've talked to Dr. Harris, the director of that department, last week, and so he's maintaining good open lines of communication with law enforcement. We're trying our very best to just to make this process as palatable as possible.
Right, right. And if you have a business that has been considered non-essential, not necessarily needing to be open, what when you go and you make your first visit to this business, obviously you're saying, hey, you don't fit the guidelines. We're going to need you to not be open right now. We're going to follow the governor's orders. What happens to that business if you have to make a second or a third visit to that business?
And we've actually done that. In one case of the sporting goods store that I was talking about earlier, we actually went there 3 times, and we didn't cite anybody. Most people understand that this is beyond what the law says. This is public health. Okay, this is not spreading this deadly virus in our community, and most of the businesses understand that. Now we have cited a local business for having been told a couple of times to cease operations, and they continue to do it, and we have issued citations there, and we'll follow up those with those through the judicial process.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people that are giving us the information is called in by neighboring businesses, says, hey, I can't open, why can they? But I think at the end of the day, it's a public health concern.
Right. Okay, I also wanted to ask you, so let's use this for an example. Someone has tested, let's just say someone has tested positive for COVID-19. They are asked, I guess, I don't really know the process, but from what I'm understanding, Chief, they are asked to quarantine at home if they test positive. Do y'all have any guidelines that you can follow or have been asked to follow if you know of someone that has tested positive, but yet they continue to go out into public? Have y'all had to reach out that far in order to get people to follow guidelines, or would you be willing to do that?
Well, we haven't had to do that yet, thank goodness. And as far as people not self-quarantining, I don't know if that's in the actual law itself.
Right.
It's certainly best practice with the city and with the police department. We've had 3 of our police department employees that have been tested for the COVID-19, and thank goodness 2 of those have come back negative. And even though they came back negative, we still are letting them quarantine for a little while to make sure that they don't, get anybody else sick.
Right.
Want to remind you this half hour brought to you as a public service of Knights Record Service. Big or small, they do it all. 899-3257. Streaming live on Facebook at B1053 and YouTube on our channel at Wiregrass Radio. Our guest today is Chief of Police for Dothan. That is Steve Parrish. Dave, anything for Steve?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Chief, I was wondering, there's a lot of construction going on the circle. Of course, traffic is people do have to go to and from work. You have to respond to police emergencies. And so I'm wondering, Chief, is there a number or a website that people, so that they're not interrupting normal police business, is there a number they can call or a website they can go to that might could answer some questions that I know you guys are probably feeling overwhelmed, and you're probably feeling kind of even more isolated than policemen probably already feel. So is there a way we can is there a pressure valve, I guess, is what I'm asking for? Is there a phone number so that your emergency lines don't get tied up, or your regular phone lines don't get tied up?
Yeah. people need to be grabbing for a pencil right now, because I'm going to do something very, very, very unusual. I'm going to give you a number where you'll actually get a voice at the end of the line.
Oh, wow.
So that's 793-0215, 793-0215. And a dispatcher will answer the phone and they'll direct your call. You know, some of the things that may involve is, you know, as you just mentioned, we're having to kind of do things differently now. You may call that number that's on the bottom of the screen right now and say, "Hey, I had a bicycle stolen 2 weeks ago. I don't know who did it."
Mm-hmm.
We can actually take that report over the phone and eliminate the officer having to come out and make contact with you to file that report. If you have the serial numbers, we can take all that on the, you know, over the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and still try to offer the best police service we can under the conditions that we have. And
Sure.
you know, I said at the very outset of this, when this started, I said, you know, my whole philosophy has been a community-minded police department. We like to go out and we like to visit and we like to play basketball with the kids and we like to interact with the public. And now we're not able to do that. So I'm kind of heartbroken in that regard, but also understand that this too shall pass and we'll be back to normal before it's over. So call that number if you need anything from us, please.
And that number again is 793-0215, 793-0215. Chief, I would like to ask you about your men and women out there working every day. What about personal protection for those guys?
Yeah.
I know that in the past they probably have gloves and stuff for different situations, but how are they outfitted now in this situation?
Well, that's one of the biggest concerns I have, and I know other chiefs throughout the state have the same concern, and that is the unavoidable contact that you may have with someone who has this. You know, whereas maybe in the medical community or in the fire department, they can don the gear and they can go into the situation. But we had last week we had a fellow that tried to fight half the department. So we had 3 or 4 guys on him, and you know, you don't know until it's over if that individual is infected. And there's really no way to avoid that type of contact. But with that said, we do have we've got some N95 masks that EMA has provided us. We're looking at filing a law enforcement grant to maybe get some Tyvek suits, the paper suits with the mask, and some more N95 masks. And even if we don't get those because of back order and them being used in medical facilities, you know, maybe we'll have them if this, God forbid, this thing comes back. So we just have the officers be very, very careful. We don't even have roll call. We tell the public, please bear with us. The officers are usually always, they'll shake your hand, they'll give you a fist bump. That might not happen now just because they're protecting themselves, because as I started saying, that's one of the biggest fears that I have, is that we'll have 4 or 5 officers at one time that go down and have to be quarantined, and we've got to fill those voids. So that's why they're being very, very cautious.
Want to remind you, if you have any comments or questions for the chief of police, you can leave them in the chat area. Want to say hello to Kim Cheeseman and Angie Smith-Rackley, also Lena Bradley, who is tuning in. We are on all 4 of our properties today, broadcasting live: WESP, WECB, WJRL Dothan, and WBBK Blakely Dothan.
So, Chief, can you give the Wiregrass and specifically Dothan, I suppose, kind of a report card? How are we doing? Are we giving you guys too much trouble? Or, this is a serious question. Is it business as usual? Are people minding themselves? It hasn't gotten crazy or anything? Just the people, the public in general?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't gotten crazy. You know, a police department is only as effective and as good as the community around them. I mean, I've said that for years, and other than you know, for the most part, people are doing what they're supposed to do. They're using caution, and they're spacing themselves on their own, and the businesses are not opening that are not supposed to be open. We have seen an increase in domestic violence calls and arrests. You know, when you start mixing, you know, the stresses of being around in in an environment with someone for a long period of time, particularly when you have the uncertainty of the financial situation that we have in our country. Many people, unfortunately, are not knowing how they're going to make ends meet. That elevates those stresses and increases our responses. It increases the alcohol content and people interacting and things like that. So those calls have gone up a little bit.
Well, I know they've gone up nationally, Chief. So I know that's not just in the Wiregrass area. Let's talk a little bit about that in depth. If someone is in a domestic um, case, let's just say that because they have been quarantined and they're in a situation that has gradually gotten worse or more inflamed with the length of time that they've been quarantined. What is the best way? Because I know that can be a very touchy situation without the quarantine, but when you add that to it, it's like you say, it inflames it a little bit more. What is your suggestion for someone that might actually be, let's say they're at home today and they're seeing you talking about this and they are in that situation, but they may be afraid to come forward about it or their safety is they're concerned about their safety. What is the best way to handle that?
Yeah. Well, it's always good if alcohol is not part of that. If you pick up that there are tensions in your family, regardless of who it is, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever, the alcohol is only going to be a potentiator of that, and make that situation potentially get out of control quicker. Give everybody their space. Don't think about social distancing. I think also about psychological distancing.
Right.
Sometimes it's best to just go out in the backyard and spend some time, on your own. Think about the things that you do have. Go delve into your faith, say a prayer, call a friend on the phone, talk to your friends about the problems. The police really we're not there to solve the problems in domestic
Right.
situations. We're there to try to kind of cool things down and then have everyone try to get along with each other. And we don't want to put anybody in jail in these situations. But unfortunately, that's what happens. And if you need us, call us. But one of the first things that we're going to do is our guys are going to say, "Do you have anywhere where you can go visit a relative?" All that's permissible under the guidelines of the governor. So you may have to stay at home and not go to work, but that don't mean you have to that you
Stay
can't go
in
to
a
your relative's house.
abusive
Right?
relationship. Yeah, for sure. That's
Yes.
that's good information there. And if there were someone, would they that needed that help getting removed from a situation, if you will, would they call the 911 number? What number would they call to get that help?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the 911 if it's an emergency, and that's what we ask that please don't tie up the 911 lines if you just need a referral. But if you do need us, call that 215 number that's flashing now on the
Mhm.
screen, and 7930215. And we have people in place. The officers know what social services to connect you with. The last thing we need is to have any families that are permanently disrupted because temporary circumstances beyond everyone's control. So call us at the 215 number, and if you just don't know where to turn, and we'll help you.
Thank you so much for that. That's good information.
You're welcome.
For you, Chief. What
Go ahead.
What are you doing to enhance your calm? I think people would be comforted to know how you're keeping it together. I mean, you've got a lot going on, man.
Well, I got a lot of good help. The city is really a remarkable machine. The departments work very well together. We're doing a lot of work over the phone. We have our command staff. We split up. We don't want anybody getting kind of like they do in the patrol division. We don't want anybody getting getting sick where there's 5 or 6 people in the hallway all sick, and now we don't know what to do. So got some good administrators that are helping carry the weight, because at the end of the day we're like everyone else. We go home. I've got kids at home, and I go home and I take my shoes off at the door, and I get cleaned up, and then we figure out what we're going to have for supper, and we sit around and watch TV like everybody else, and get up the next morning and come do it again. So good help, but that's a good point.
How about social distancing among your force?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that we're doing. These guys don't like hanging around too close to each other anyway, so that's kind of a benefit. Police officers anyway they're kind of trained to keep their distance anyway. So when they're interacting with one another, that's not really been a problem. I'm really proud of this department. And I'm going to plug the communications division as well. The unsung heroes. This is National Telecommunicators Week this week, and our dispatchers and emergency service dispatchers are really a lifeline of our whole community, and I wanted to shout out to them today and this whole week. They're really appreciated. So we're going to keep our doing what we're doing with, just like everybody else is, keeping our distance from one another. Even the city departments, we do a lot of stuff over the phone. We don't do it in person if we don't have to.
So right now the guidelines are saying, is it just through the end of April for us guys? I'm not sure what our date handed down from the governor was. Is it just through the end of April?
Yes. As far as I know, it's to the end of April.
Okay, because I know a lot of states have extended to like the 3rd, so I wasn't sure if we had an extension yet or not. So
I think Atlanta was one of those that moved it to the middle of May, and I think different regional locations and larger cities have done that.
It has to do with the rate of infection for the state.
Right. Right.
And I want to throw something out there too. One of the things that really we in law enforcement, not only here but everywhere else, is concerned with, and I would like everybody to kind of pay attention to this and call us if this becomes an issue. But I'm afraid that as we level off, and then start going downhill, that's when we're going to see an increase in crime, and that's when we're gonna try to have most of our concentrated patrols on the street, and we want our community to be vigilant too during that time. When people start getting comfortable, I'm not going to get this, so I'm going to take advantage of people and start stealing or start scamming and start doing things like that.
I was going to ask you about scams, Chief. I was going to ask you about scams while we have a few minutes left. People are going to be getting a nice little injection of funds from the government, and I wonder if you guys have some plans in place for those scammers that are just waiting.
Scams unfortunately have become a reality in our communities, in every city, and they're full of predators. The only thing I can say is, yes, we have people in place that can help you. Let us know, regardless of if you think that there's any validity to it or how ridiculous it may sound. Report those scams so we can pass those on to the community, because just always remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
For sure. For sure.
He mentioned National Telecommunicators Week. This is also National Send $20 to Your Favorite Engineer Week. I just wanted to remind Amy and Dave of that. So
it's in the mail.
Yeah.
Scammed.
Yeah.
Good call, Chief. Good call. So that number, once again, is 793-0215, and that's what you want to call if it's not an emergency. Just one more time, I want to make sure that's plain, right?
Yes, sir. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. And they are not coming to your door to give you a COVID-19 test, and they do not have a vaccine to sell you. So please do not. And if that does happen, there's that number, 793-0215. Get a hold of the chief and his staff, and let's take care of that. I did find that some of the cause and effect of the COVID-19 shelter in place and social distancing, some of the crime has gone down. That has been reported, that some of the crime has gone down. And yes, that is probably going to be an issue now when we start getting back out and we start braving it. The crime level will probably also be associated with that increase. So
whatever we can do to help.
But we do want to thank you guys, Chief, for everything you do. I know sometimes it feels like you are not given the respect and the appreciation that you guys deserve because it's a tireless job. I mean, you're constantly working and you're constantly climbing the hill and fighting those battles for us. And you guys are on the front line too, much like the medical staff and the emergency personnel are. So I personally want to thank you for all that you do. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I know that our listeners appreciate it as well.
Well, I appreciate that. It means a lot, and it means a lot to our to our employees as well. And we're just happy to serve the community. And the old saying about it is a calling. It is. I'm 36 years into it, and still love every minute of it. So, but thank you so much, and thank all of you for having me on here today.
Anytime.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back.
That's right.
That sounds good. Love to come back and talk to you as this thing kind of progresses and we get out of it.
For sure.
And our guest today is the Dothan Police Chief, Mr. Steve Parrish. And again, that number's on the bottom of the screen, 7930215. That is Dothan Police Dispatch. So we don't tie up the 911 with non-critical and non-emergency issues. Again, that number, 7930215. Chief, thank you so much for being with us today. We do appreciate it.
Hey, it was a pleasure, guys. Thank you for inviting me.
And Dave, thank you so much for being with us from Wicksburg, Alabama. And Dave, somewhere on the Witness Protection Program within Alabama.
I guarantee you, Chief knows exactly where I am.
Yeah, make a note.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much for being with us. We are going to go ahead and return ourselves to normal programming. I do want to remind you this half hour was brought to you as a public service of Knights Wrecker. Big or small, they do it all. 899-3257, Ashford, Dothan, and Headland. And we do this every day at 5 o'clock from 5 to 5:30 to keep you informed and to keep you strong, Wiregrass. We certainly do want to help you do that. Streaming live on Facebook, B1053, and YouTube on our channel at Wiregrass Radio on YouTube. We do like to also recognize our media partners, News 4 and WRGX. They helped us out last night in some of that storm coverage. So until tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock, we'll do Wiregrass Strong all over again. We now return you to normal programming.